won't go away. The images are as intense now as they were on the day. I should have been killed. There's no way I should be walking, let alone being able to breathe and all the other things. I really wanted to die.
I'd never actually thought what I would be like if I did get injured, and so I didn't really think how I should be dealing with it. And I really did feel I had completely lost it. I mean, I was going through things like walking around the shops and thinking, I want to start ranting and raving, and shouting and screaming at people, and just wanting to let go of what was sitting there. But I thought, no, if I do it, somebody's going to call up and say there's a lady who appears to be having some mental problems.
During the day, I just remember sitting there and thinking my whole head was going to blow up. I just thought I was going mad. I just didn't know what was wrong with me. I remember I used to kind of try and get up in the morning. I couldn't get out of the house because I was shaking so much. And I kind of been up for a while, and I just used to go back to bed because my head was just... I just felt as it was going to blow up. I just did not know what was wrong with me. I kind of used to go back to bed and pull the covers over me, just hoping it would all go away.
These people have actually suffered from very, very severe, very harassing, terrorizing events. They're also tremendously worried about the impact it's had on them, because they're worried about being detected as being mad or deranged or unbalanced or abnormal. And these people need help in order to be able to feel normal again.
There are literally thousands of people suffering from post-traumatic stress in Britain. Many cases result from disasters like Lockerbie or Hillsborough or the Gulf or Falklands War, but many more are undiagnosed and result from everyday events which have gone dramatically wrong, affecting people who were previously in total control of their lives.
Part of my life, I used to go around and visit my parents on a Sunday afternoon, generally after lunch. I lived on one side of Tetbury and they lived on the other side. This particular Sunday, I set off to walk across to town. About 2 o'clock, 10 minutes later, I got to their house. And as normal, I usually just went straight through the front door. Now, this particular day, I went to the front door, tried the handle, and it was locked. And immediately I thought, this is strange. They normally left it off the catch because they were expecting me. And so immediately I sensed there was something wrong. So I walked back from the front door and went to the kitchen window and looked through the kitchen window to see if I could see them. And I looked through the window and there was no sign of any lunch dishes. I thought, I've got to get in the house. I went into the garage and then went to the door that connects the garage to the main part of the house. That too was open, and I went through there, came to the dining room, and the Sunday papers were sitting on the table, unopened. And I thought, this is very, very odd. I went on a bit further and came to the kitchen. Went into the kitchen, saw my mother's brandy glass. She normally has a glass of brandy the last thing at night. I turned around and saw on the door that opens to the garden at the back 3 little specks of blood. So then I went to the door that leads into the sitting room, and it was locked. I don't like this. I just don't like this at all. What am I going to do? And I couldn't reach the phone because that was in the living room as well. So I went back into the kitchen, and there's a little hatch that connects the kitchen to the living room. And so I got up onto the ledge, opened the hatch, and was knocked out. Well, not knocked out, but loads of smoke hit me in the face. So then I thought, I've got to get through. Maybe they're lying on the floor and they're just kind of unconscious. So I went to crawl through the hatch. And I got halfway through the hatch and I saw an axe and a knife lying on the floor, just sitting parallel, neatly. So I just pulled back straight away, and then I dialed 999, and I went out into the lane, and I can just remember standing there on my own, all these people at the end of the lane staring at me, people running, police officers and firemen running into the house past me with all sorts of equipment. I just felt so alone. I just remember standing there, holding my head in my hands, total disbelief.
Gloucestershire police are hunting the killer of a nuclear physicist and his wife, murdered in what the police call a horrendous attack with an axe and a knife. The bodies of John and Ruth Gore were found at their home in Tetbury yesterday. The police want to question their son Christopher, a student at Bath, who is believed to have visited the couple on Friday.
Police were called in after firemen discovered the couple's bodies while attending a small fire at their 19th century cottage in Tetbury in Gloucestershire. An area of about 100 yards radius was sealed off as the murder inquiry began. Detectives leading the hunt for the killer said Dr. Gore and his wife died from severe head injuries caused by a large axe and kitchen knife.
In 27 years police experience, perhaps with the exception of bomb injuries, but the injuries are the worst that I've ever seen. Horrific, horrible.
I was torn between, I knew really it was probably better for me to see my parents because I would have understood that they really were dead then, but at the same time I was scared because my imagination was kind of going wild with really how they'd look. I think I would have had horrendous nightmares. I mean, like I say, imagination goes wild anywhere. I mean, even now, times at night, I'll kind of wake up wondering what happened that night.
People develop this massive stress reaction when they are assaulted by an experience, when they're impacted by an experience of very high magnitude, where they feel that they could have or almost lost their lives, or that someone else whom they knew almost lost their lives, or when they were in the company of other people who actually did lose their lives.
At the time, in the services, I was doing the role of serving as a photographic interpreter. My job was to go out to liaise with all the military units, and I'd made an agenda to visit several UDR locations, and also made a specific point of going down to Belfast itself to help with the handover takeover of the Green Jackets and the Coldstream Guards. Of course, that's always a particularly vulnerable time and a high risk time for potential IRA ambushes. We had to go down to Springfield Road RUC station, which was the battalion headquarters. At that time, there had been, we could hear in the background, over the roofs, a little bit of shooting, but there wasn't sort of lots of it. There were just one or two shots that had taken place, but we didn't know what it was, and it was too far away for us to be concerned with. I was a bit pushed for time after a while, and I wanted to move on. And around about 11:20, a double mobile came in, two Land Rovers. I went down the stairs, got into the vehicle, and they said, "No, you don't want to get into that one, Greg. Get into the one in front." So, fair enough. So I went into the front vehicle. There were two Land Rovers. And the way the RUC Springfield police station is, there's no cross traffic. It's a one-way system, basically. You go in one way and you go out the other. So the vehicle was going out from Springfield Road out into Cavendish Street. And I can remember turning out onto the street and just looking out of the back of the Land Rover and looking at the Land Rover behind me. And then we turned right again. Every time this happens. As I said, we went down the street and we turned right into Crocus Street. And as we went down there, about 50 yards into the street, I can remember just the hammering. All of a sudden there was this hammering noise. And the next thing I can remember was a blow to my head, and I fell into the well of the Land Rover. And the next thing I can remember after that was the rifleman. The rifleman fell on top of me. All of a sudden there was a lot of noise. All the time there was just this hammering going on. And we drove on up the street as far as we could. The engine was revving like hell. There was a lot of commotion going on. And we just kept on moving until we were out of the line of fire. Our Land Rover was hit by 70 rounds of armour-piercing M60 machine gun bullets. Rifleman Holland had been shot in the chest and shot in the head. 2 other soldiers in the other Land Rover were shot dead. And I lived. I realised at some point that I'd had lumps in my head and that I had a fair amount of shrapnel on my skull. But it wasn't too critical. In that particular ambush, the IRA had actually occupied the house the night before. They'd seized the occupants of the house. They'd put a machine gun, an M60, on a table from the bedroom window, and they waited for the appropriate time, and they picked on us.
We had a call to a man who was creating a bit of a disturbance in Green High Road, and I went to get hold of the man, and he was almost doing a boxing stance with me. He was lashing out, but holding his hand out, and then going at me with his fist clenched. And we were just going round each other. And thinking about it now, I know the way I was getting injured was because I was trying to defend my face but hold on to him at the same time. He then pushed me back quite hard, and I fell to the ground. Tried to get up. As I did get up, I put my hand over my stomach and felt warm liquid, very sticky liquid, and looked down and saw that I was bleeding.
The incident happened at about 4 o'clock this afternoon as hundreds of shoppers gathered around this precinct in Wood Green, North London. Police were called to the Paradise clothing shop after reports of a disturbance involving a man carrying a knife outside. In the process of arresting him, 3 women officers and 1 male sergeant were stabbed.
I was aware that I'd been stabbed in the stomach and my chest, and somebody said, I think she's got one in her back at the scene. But it wasn't until they were taking my clothes off in the casualty, and there was, oh yeah, there's another one here, oh, and we've got another one here, and I started thinking, and I kept saying to myself, well, yes, I've been stabbed 5 times, but I was feeling okay at that point until they wanted to take an x-ray of my stomach one, and they had to try and flatten me out. And at that time, I was sitting forward, and luckily, the way my body was, it had shut down and closed down that wound, which was probably the best thing at that time. By getting me to lie flat, it was then going to open up the wound. And that happened. It was like a champagne cork going off. Blood just went flying out of my stomach wound. And that alarmed me. And seeing the doctor's reaction alarmed me as well, which was, I have to say, it was panic on his face. I started getting nightmares. A lot of them were revisiting the scene, but other nightmares were a knife, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And sounds. I was getting quite a lot of sounds in my dreams of knives going in and out. The thing with what happened with me was that the chap had the Swiss Army knife in the palm of his hand and with the blade between his hands, so you didn't see it. It wasn't like he was waving it about. It was very controlled. And there was no sound, but I was dreaming more exaggerated sounds, bigger knives. I would be getting night sweats. I'd wake up 2 or 3 times in a night.
Memories of the trauma that come back to the individual by day in the form of flashbacks, or sometimes by night in the form of nightmares. These are not just nightmares or memories as we reminders of the event as we might choose to believe that they might be. These are excruciatingly frightening experiences where people convert what is really the here and now to the there and then. They in fact re-experience the event really as it was in all of its calamity, all of its chaos. All of the visual experiences, the sounds, etc., are all there. They have palpitations, nausea, they have bowel upsets, their muscles feel tense, they have headaches, migraines, etc. And they also have this profound feeling of vulnerability.
I was having lots of dreams, trying to rationalise what had happened. I didn't really have flashbacks, but I was having just permanent shakes, permanent noises or sounds or smells or anything that reminded me of the event. Just kind of sent me into kind of states of panic.
Catherine's brother Christopher was charged with the murder of their parents.
Going around town and seeing people cross the street because they didn't know what to say to me. And actually going in the doctor's surgery, and when you have your name called out and people look at you, and I was just saying, oh, look, that's her. It was that grew totally out of proportion, I think. So to the stage where I just retreated from life and stopped going out because I'd got it into my head that everybody was pointing and staring at me. I just really was convinced at this stage that whenever I went out, people would just look at me and say, oh God, there's that girl, the one that's like her brother probably. Wonder what's wrong with her. And I seemed to have the shakes permanently. I was sweating at night. I was so jumpy. Whenever I was in the flat and the phone rang, I leapt off the chair. And it was just a real struggle, just doing normal daily things. Although the police had actually, they said cleaned the house, there were still quite a few obvious signs of what had happened. There was a lot of blood behind the radiator on the wall. Carpets had been ripped up, mattresses had been removed. There was quite an indentation on the headboard. Patches of blue liquid on the door of the bathroom and on the bathroom floor. And this, obviously unsettled me quite a lot. My imagination started kind of playing games with me then, building up a picture of what had happened. Of my brother coming up and going to my father. And I used to lie in bed and imagine the scenario of him killing my father and my mother being disturbed by all the noise, and then actually seeing her son kill her husband, and the actual sheer panic, terror and emotions that she must have been going through in those split seconds. They haunted me for ages. I used to lie in bed, kind of thinking how horrendous that must have been for her, and then see her son turn on her. Just kind of gave me nightmares for a long time, and occasionally now I still kind of wake up with an image of my brother standing over me with an axe.
Christopher Gore was committed to Broadmoor Hospital for an indefinite period. Seven days after the ambush, Greg was back on duty in Belfast.
I mean, the crazy thing was, when I was in Northern Ireland very shortly after I was shot and I went back afterwards, we would go into the bars on barracks and I'd sort of polarise myself to people who'd been traumatised too. And all we would do all evening is drink, smoke until you could barely take a mouthful of air, and cry. And the crying was more hysterical laughter than crying. and we didn't understand what was going on. But we felt better for it, or we thought we felt better for it, but there was no communication, no real communication took place. We just drank, smoked and cried and laughed. And that just went on from day to day. It's crazy, because we didn't deal with anything. We seemed to revel in our own mire.
Despite their training, many soldiers suffer from post-traumatic stress.
I couldn't talk to my wife. Not normally. I would be lecturing. I would be talking at my wife rather than talking with my wife. And I couldn't tolerate things that to me were irrational or not logical. So we had a lot of arguments, and what started off as normal arguments, if there is such a thing as a normal argument, became very heated, and I would be on a short fuse, and I would explode and become physically violent. Not to my wife, but I would put my fist through the door. I would hit inanimate objects to vent my frustration of not being able to win the argument, if that's the right thing, or not being able to express myself in a way that she could understand.
I went back to work eventually in June. And then on the 10th of December, the IRA had been having quite an intensive sort of Christmas bombing campaign. And they planted 2 bombs in Wood Green. When that went off, I was standing exactly where I'd been stabbed. And I remember putting my head down after hearing the explosion and waiting for the debris to come down. And when nothing happened, I thought, oh, I was okay. And it was then that I looked up and I saw where I was. Mark came and collected me, and I was in quite bad shock then. I just couldn't talk about anything. Mark was saying, well, what happened? And I didn't want to talk about it. And I got home, and I'm sitting there shaking, shivering. People were phoning up. When I was talking to people on the phone, my legs were going into knee-jerk reaction. I'd been seen by a doctor at work, and that was basically it. But that really was when everything started to really come on top then. And that weekend it was very difficult for Mark and myself. We had decided that we were going to go our separate ways. So from that week, everything just went downhill completely. And I felt very much on my own. And he has said that, yeah, he feels, I've got to get out of here. He was seeing me going through another breakdown, and I suppose I did. And at that stage, I really thought I was going mental. I thought I'd end up in the hospital with the man who had stabbed me.
If you love somebody enough and you're close enough to them, you don't want them to feel the way that you do because you actually feel so bad inside. You don't want to contaminate them in that way. And the second thing is that no one ultimately trusts anyone else, ultimately. And I think that if you were to reveal some of the thoughts that you had when you have post-traumatic stress to another person, a spouse, a partner, some intimate, it is possible that you would feel that you would reveal something about yourself that might make them run away into the heather, if you like, away from you, abandon you.
You go to work every day. And makes it seem somewhat banal sometimes, really, when you go to work in a normal course of your day. And the people that you work with have no idea what you go through. I might as well say to them I was a retired astronaut that fell out of the sky, because it has the same relevance to them. They just simply don't understand. And that makes it even more difficult to relate it to them.
18 months after the ambush, Greg left the army. He and his wife divorced, and he remained untreated for 12 years. Greg, Jenny and Catherine went on an intensive 2-week residential course to treat post-traumatic stress under Dr. Gordon Turnbull and his team.
Well, Ticehurst is unique in the sense that it is using a group treatment program for PTSD. The first thing that we do with the group work is to try to get them to talk about what happened to them in the group setting. Now, many people say, well, you know, and people who come into the group will actually say, well, I've done all that. I mean, what good is it going to be to talk about my problem again? But of course they haven't. The people who've come into the group realise that once they've done it, if you like, that they haven't told the story fully at all. That the traumatic memories that they've actually had, they have been denying to an extent, and they have never felt safe enough to let it out.
You have to relive the whole experience all over again, and you'd probably never done it before. You'd probably never... I'd kind of gone through it with the police, but that was really in a state of shock in the very first couple of days, and it was very formal. There were no emotions discussed. It was just bang, bang, bang. What did you see? What did you do next? But this was probably the very, very first time that you talked about the events and how you'd felt.
They know that they're going to address something that they don't want to. If you like, they're going back to the lion's den. It's something that they try to avoid, and have quite often, in most situations, have developed immensely capable coping mechanisms and avoidance mechanisms, which you have to battle with. And when they come in, all these mechanisms seem to come into play. And they can be very, very difficult and very, very difficult to manage.
Well, Ian had this uncanny ability to see straight through you, straight to the heart of the problem. I'd tried every which way I could to circumvent it and go on to other things. Anyway, after a great deal of discussion, I basically told him what the root problem was. And it felt better. I felt better for it afterwards. Not at the time. And then, of course, the rest of the group did their thing. And at the end of the day, it was like as if like a great big weight had been, a yoke had been taken off my shoulders.
As you go on through his personal account, he began to feel very, very guilty about the death of this other individual. But the events of this death just didn't tie in with the guilt. The guilt and the event didn't happen. If you look at it from a moral point of view, yes, one would say, oh yes, I should have died and not him. But in reality, that was not the case. The responsibility was held with the man, what should have been held with the person who was firing the bullets. Greg could not ventilate his feelings about this anywhere. Being in the military, being in the part of the military that he was in, he was unable to talk to anyone about it. He was certainly unable to find guidance or counselling of any kind in order to express his feelings. So he turned that inwards and began to feel very, very guilty about things that had occurred, almost to a self-destructive point of view.
When I had moments to spare by myself, and bearing in mind that I was issued my 9mm Browning pistol and a Walther PPK, There were ample opportunities. In the barracks, out in the countryside, where I just used to go through this sort of macabre role of putting the gun in my mouth and sort of practicing, seeing what it felt like. Really wanting to sort of end it all there and then. And this went on for some time, on a daily basis. Unknown to anybody else, obviously. It was my little secret. I didn't, very clearly. And those feelings persisted for some time. Even today they do. Not quite as powerful as they were then. But I know that that's the survivor guilt. I shouldn't be here.
A traumatic memory, when there's an awful lot of information flooding in all at once, will be held at a more superficial level in the mind than ordinary memories. The ordinary memories go back down into the memory stores, deeper down into the mind, into the unconscious, if you like. These memories are held up closer to the surface. And of course, because they're closer to the surface, they're more reactive, they're rawer, they're unprocessed. And people who do not process or reprocess, if you like, those partially processed traumatic memories won't get better, in the sense that they'll never recover from the flashbacks, the nightmares, the high arousal state, the avoidance behaviours until they do.
"12 years on, Greg has decided to return to Belfast.
I think in the back of my mind I'm hoping that I'm going to exercise something. I'm hoping. I do want to achieve something. I want to go home tonight, and I want to have something laid to rest. We'll see. Jeez, I see these fences and all. Flipping heck. I was just about here. Maybe a tad further on. Oh, Christ. can still hear it's that tap, tap, tapping noise. It's there, like yesterday. It's just like yesterday. I could just see them at the end of the street there. Bit more comfortable. Still feel very strange though. It's the fact that it happened here. This is it, isn't it? This is where I died. Almost. It's just hard to believe that I'm looking at the same street in 1995. It's a different world. Yeah.
Over?
Almost. There's some loose ends to tie up. But this part of it, I think, is done. I got a mental picture of throwing dirt on a coffin. You know? I'm burying this. I'm actually doing it in my mind. I can feel it. I won't ever forget it. My memory won't allow me to forget it. But I can look at it in a different light now. I feel as if I will be able to. And hopefully I won't look at rooftops much longer either. Yeah. I'll be all right.
I'm able to look at it quite rationally now and deal with it, look at it and put it into a box and feel, yes, I can take that box out and look at it, whereas before I used to feel guilty about talking about it. Now I feel I can draw on it as well. A lot of things are changing for me. My marriage has stabilised and Mark and I are back together. And that's still, we have to work at that. Between the two of us, we've got a lot to sort out. But we've been together a long time. And I didn't think it was ever going to get back.
Jenny was medically retired from the police force in March.
Knowing there are other people out there who have suffered, and you're not the only one. It's not abnormal, and to get rid of that label and that feeling of being abnormal is one of the biggest steps. I feel now I'm more in control and I'm stronger for it.
Yes, first time I've been here with a lot of people around. Yeah. I think if I'd come back about a year or 2 years ago, I wouldn't be able to stand and talk about it. I'd have got very jumpy. Quite funny, really. Just a simple call. It's supposed to be on that side of the road and just end up... Yeah. Just never know what's going to turn up. I'm just glad I'm here to tell the story. Yeah.
I just can't believe how much has improved since I went on that course. Where I was 12 months ago to where I am now, I'd never ever believed it.
Let's have some double.
Double cheaper. It is cheaper. How much would you like? Is that piece going to be too big for you? I still get ups and downs, but they're ups and downs that I can cope with now. I've got a fantastic life. I've got some brilliant friends. I've got a super job, which I love, and it's all in Tetbury, and it doesn't bother me one little bit. I drive past my parents' house now every day to go to work, and I don't mind. I just love it.
I get very scared because I guess I'm very fearful of rejection, like most people would be. When you're with a partner, it would be, to my mind, very easy for my partner to turn around and say, "Oh shit, this guy's a total deranged idiot, and I don't want anything more to do with him." Oh, it is very difficult for Angela. She wants to care. But it's still very difficult for me to allow her to care. I think with time, I hope with time, it will get better. I'm assured that it will do.
Greg and Angela were recently married.